You'll be on YouTube, Ryan.
You'll be famous.
Welcome. If you've watched more than one video, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. After watching this video, you are going to have some really useful tips for your next roll. Wrestlers know how to get it done, especially when it comes to takedowns. Here's a key tip. When you overhook somebody's arm, notice how Ryan's arm is not on my bicep, it is on my shoulder. That will give you a more powerful overhook to complete takedown. I am going for an uchimata. I'm trying to use my underhook and my leg to do a forward throw. At the same time, he uses his overhook and turns and sits. His takedown is perfectly timed and it's kind of fun to get thrown, which is why I'm laughing my ass off. And like any jiu-jitsu player worth their salt going against a wrestler, I immediately go for an armbar after being thrown. Ryan successfully pulls out to defend the armbar. Pulling out, a more effective armbar defense than birth control method. Pulling out is still legal in 52 states. All of these hoes I made off records I produce. I might take all my exes and put them all in a group. Hit my essays, I need the booch. Here is a crucial tip to help you out. Wrist control is not only a skill for pubescent boys creating questionably stiff socks. In this position, wrist control will prevent you from getting punched in the face. This is crucial in MMA and self-defense because the effectiveness of your jiu-jitsu is positively correlated to consciousness. Your jiu-jitsu is non-existent if you're knocked out. Ryan goes for a hip throw. At this point, most people would be up crap creek without a paddle, but I'm going to show you a little tip. One great defense for a hip throw or a hip toss anytime somebody's trying to throw you forward using their hips, if you can get around their hip and put a foot down, you can stop that throw. And then from there, you can counter that throw with a throw of your own. Stop the forward momentum with your forward foot, then push off that forward foot while you grab their waist using your underhook arm and hang off their body very heavy. This is totally key. You need to be like a little koala monkey hanging off of them. That way all of your body weight with your leg wrapped around the backside of their leg to complete the outside trick. Wrestlers are like magical unicorns that never fall on their back. Ryan turns to his knees and at this point I sink in my hooks, which are my feet, and go for the rear naked choke. Ryan is defending the rear naked choke by trying to control my hands from choking his neck, and he also uses his hand in order to push down my leg. If you ever have somebody's back and you feel their butt slip past your bottom knee, know that you have lost control of their back position, and anytime I feel that, I immediately go to mount before they completely escape and end up on top. So now that I am on top of Ryan, I immediately put my right shoulder against his neck and then use my fist to block the left side carotid artery. The best defense towards somebody escaping is to just go right in for a choke. I know that he usually escapes by getting one arm out, and I use this to my advantage. Anytime that you see one arm in, one arm out between your legs, that means that there is an opportunity for a triangle. And that's from any position inside. If they're inside your guard, if you're on top. From the triangle, I usually get an arm bar, but he is hiding his arm. In order to distract him, I muffle him, partly because it's just really funny to hear his reaction, which is very funny and makes me laugh. Simply plugged his nose and covered his mouth. That way he would want to move his arm. Now that I have the triangle, I go for a kimura. Anytime that you have a triangle and one arm is open, is in the air usually, you can use that to your advantage and attack that arm, or shoulder in this case. And Ryan taps to the kimura. Anytime you see a wrestler and they're trying to tap your forehead and then look at your hips, you are about to get double-legged. He shoots in for the double and I pull his head up to go in for a guillotine. However, he gets a double underhook, and because of the height difference, typically you want to swim in one hand to get to the pummel position, but I am fucked. Like this position, yeah, totally helpless. I keep an overhook on Ryan's left arm in order to try to turn into him to get a top position, but at the same time he goes for a crucifix. Now, in order for you to escape the crucifix, you must get that arm that's between their legs out, and be prepared because they might try to push your head in to go for a triangle. However, I'm lucky enough to escape that and get a top position. I cut my knee over to regain mount. However, Ryan captures my right leg and what he's trying to do is he's trying to hip out in order to get me off of him. But I go right for the head because I'm thinking there is another triangle here. And right now I'm trying to do a reverse arm bar, but that doesn't seem to be working because he is pulling my hips up. That way I can't really leverage that much, and he escapes out the back. Now he is trying to pass my guard and successfully does that and gets into a north-south position. Definitely not where you want to be with a wrestler, is on the bottom of a front turtle. So right now he has a really good key lock position that he's trying to control me with as I am driving towards him. Now he has me in a headlock position, and the headlock position, if you can get your head out, then you have a good chance to take their back. And right now what I am trying to do is transition from the back to get a top side position as he is trying to get a key lock grip. That way he can control me from getting a top position. So he successfully gets a top position while I go on my back and I'm like, here, take the overhook, because I'm trying to do some bottom game, but he's like, no, let's just stand back up. So we stand back up. And again, I try to go for a front headlock in order to do a throw, but that shit does not work on him at all. So right here I have the overhook position, and from this overhook what I am attempting to do is there's a couple things you can do from here. You can do a triangle, which I attempted to do right there, especially since he put his hand underneath my leg, but he was able to pop his head out in time to narrowly escape that triangle. So right now he's trying to do a knee on belly, and that is the end of the round, but stick around, we have more for you. When going for an uchimata, if your uchimata doesn't work, there's always the ankle pick. From the uchimata, I go for the ankle pick. However, he uses his whizzer to drive me forward. I run around. He then goes for a fireman's carry. Now, from the fireman's carry, because this is jiu-jitsu, I can trap his far arm. He tries to flip over using his head, and that puts him in the crucifix position. Since then, he has just been pulling his head out, which is a great defense to even getting yourself in here in the first place. Now that I have him in the crucifix position, what I am doing is I'm trying to armbar his far side arm. At the same time, I am trying to choke him. They get outside when they pull up, they give me loose. Yeah, jump out, boys. That's Nike boys. I've been our goose. This shit way too big. When we pull up, give me the loot. What's off the Remy? Add up at boost. He escapes by swinging his legs in a pendulum motion, which is a movement in jiu-jitsu you'll see quite often. So from that pendulum motion of his legs swinging, he is able to free his right arm from between my legs. And at the same moment, I grab the underhook. That way I can maintain a top position and try to pin this wrestler as he has me in a half guard position because one of my legs is between his legs, and he is able to complete a sweep. From here, I belly out to go in for a double leg as he is trying to guillotine me. I drive forward and he uses the hooks in order to sweep me, but I keep a hold of his legs. That way I can get back on top, and I try to pass his guard as his right foot is hooked in my leg, which is trying to prevent me from getting past his legs, which, as we all know, means you're passing his guard. The guard is the leg. So now I have the whizzer as he is trying to go for a far side knee tap, but then reverses and gets an amazing sweep and proceeds to stand up, because we all know wrestlers have amazing stand up.
We made no moves, now it's 4 a.m. and I'm back up popping with the crew. I just landed in Shakespeare mixes pop like Jamba Joe.
This right here is so money, and I don't even know, I don't even think he knows it. So he goes in to go for a hip throw, and from here there is always a fight as to who can get whose hips in front, because whoever has their hips in front can throw the other person. So he gets his hips in front. I'm like, hell no, I try to get my hips in front, and then he uses that as an opportunity to go for a rear trip. Beautiful.
I did half a zen, 13 hours till I land, had me out like a light, like a light, like a light, slept through the flight.
All right, now for something that is going to be super useful for you. I am going to give you some tips on how to do this hip throw, and also it's in wrestling, it's called a hip toss. But not only will I show you some tips to do this throw, I'm also going to give you tips on how to train to learn throws, because once you understand this, you can apply this to any type of takedown technique, even submission techniques, arm locks, chokes, you name it. But specifically, takedowns I find are some of the hardest moves to learn, so that's why we're going to start there. Specifically for a hip throw in judo or a hip toss in wrestling, I am focusing on getting wrist control and in a position to start the throw that I usually find myself in when I'm going live. That way it will be easier for you to put this puzzle piece into your game, because you already have an entry that you're training your body to know. Now during the throw, what my goal is to make the throw seem effortless. And to feel effortless, which is great because I am, 130 pounds trying to throw a 215-pound man. So if I know when my technique is not right, because you will feel the weight and the throw will feel hard. If the throw feels easy, especially with somebody that weighs a lot, then you know your technique is solid and you can throw anyone. For a hip throw, the key thing is, of course, to get in your position. I want to have wrist control. I want my forehead against the side of his face, against his ear. And now for the judo step in. So it's a step, swivel, stay on the balls of your feet. And the most important thing to make this throw feel light is once that swivel happens on the balls of your feet and you're staying on the balls of your feet, you're not on your heels, is to bend your knees and pop your knees up in order to load their hips on your hips. So then the throw and the twisting motion of the upper torso is not the thing loading them on you. That's what makes this throw seem heavy. If they're not properly loaded onto your hips, then it's just going to be all a twisting motion, which if you're doing it against somebody really heavy, you're going to get 2 reps and be exhausted. However, if you bend your legs and pop them on your hips and then twist your upper body, then you will have a throw that feels effortless. And also, you want to get your ass to their far hip. So your ass crack is in their far hip. That way they won't slide off the side. After you have the technique without movement, now is the super important time, the transition time, to introduce it into live sparring. But what you want to do is you want to pick a partner that knows how to do technical movements, and you want to just basically flow without a lot of resistance, but with defensive movements and them trying to set stuff up at the same time you're trying to set stuff up, almost like a dance where both parties can play around with the movement to try to fit in and successfully execute the throw that you're working on. So here you can see Ryan and I are starting from a collar tie, and before training with Ryan, I used to think that a collar tie was a safe place to stop and rest, but Ryan showed me that a collar tie actually can be used against you and is not a very safe place to be. I try to do a head throw, he gets behind me and ends up doing a takedown. And this type of practice is great because you get a lot of movement without using a lot of strength, because the two parties aren't doing this white belt type of resistance. Here what Ryan is showing is how to make a collar tie basically not a safe place to stay. By taking your arm and basically using your elbow as a lever, you can then pop their collar tie that's around your neck up and move it across their face into a position that is extremely compromising. So after this training session, I used to stay in a collar tie position, but if I'm going up against somebody with a wrestling background, that shit is not a safe place to stay. It's very difficult to throw a wrestler by his or her head because they are so good at working from a collar tie.
I'm the lyrical, here comes the hot stepper, I'm the lyrical gangster, pick up the crew in the area, still love you like that.
Because I am used to training with individuals that aren't wrestlers, I can put a collar tie on them, snap them down, get them in a front headlock, and throw them. However, when I train with Ryan, he is a wrestler in college, so he is so good from that position that I can't get shit on him. And since this training, I have learned to not stay in a collar tie position with him. That's not how I approach training with him, because every single time I stay there with him, he has skill in that area that I don't. So I'm going to play a game that I can that I'm gonna have a better chance of winning. From this training, okay, this is helpful for you because this type of training helps you decide what type of body position you can be in order to execute your throw. From the throw that you saw Ryan do to me at the beginning of this video, I was like, after feeling that throw seemed effortless, and I wanted to learn how to do that. And this is Ryan giving some tips. Right after, he's gonna give some tips right after I show him a sweet takedown from a single leg. What he wants to show is how that overhook can be so powerful. Here's this throw during live training of him doing it to me, and here is an example of me doing it to Laura during live training after we did this practice session like 2 weeks prior. What Ryan is showing is how the overhook, clinching down on that overhook and driving your weight down in opposition to doing the same on the other side, can then create the movement to make the other person fly, which you saw me basically fly through the air there.
Fight me. You don't want no problem, let your party, don't invite me. I don't worry about your nigga.
And just you would grab on.
The benefit of this type of training for you is to be able to feel the movement that just practicing it standing still doesn't allow you to have. So this type of movement that we're practicing is you pull them one way, you pull them the other way, and then this allows you to be able to create the off balancing or kazushi that will allow you to complete this type of throw, or an off balancing that will help you with any type of throw. This concept or principle of off balancing is found throughout all martial arts when you're trying to get a person to the ground. You can see here, anytime that you try something new, you're going to suck at it. At least I suck at things I'm trying to first learn. And just because somebody is a, let's say, upper belt, doesn't mean they're an upper belt in all techniques. You could have a black belt that's just learning a technique that is a white belt in that technique. So obviously I'm a white belt right now in this technique. That's why it's just really important to just keep on practicing.
Here comes the hot stepper, pick up the crew in the
failure is going to come, but it's just important to view the quote-unquote failure not as a failure, but as a attempt that you successfully tried to do it. For me, it's like, if I suck at something, it doesn't make you feel good when you attempt it because I suck. But I have to keep on trying in order to not suck. It's always good to do this type of training. That way you get in the movement and your body starts to understand how it fits in and what somebody could do as a defense and what will actually happen when your body tries it and doesn't really know the movement yet. So then you have to figure out how you need to reposition your body in order to get like the maximum power and potential behind the throw. Especially if you're smaller, maximizing the technique and knowing the little tips like the off balancing, like getting a good overhook, like putting your weight on that overhook will help you tremendously.
Andamos en la calle, o sea en la llegada. Andamos fumando Bayeli, Purple Haze en mi jilbab. Hablan mierda a tu espalda y cuando te ven ellos no dicen nada. Ando con mi hermano DJ Joven.
Thank you so much for watching. It was my pleasure to take time to edit this video for you and to create it. And if you have not subscribed, I appreciate all of those who have subscribed. It just, it makes me feel good. I appreciate your support, and that serves as like a thank you for the time it takes to make this stuff, which I'm happy that I could make for you to help you get better. All right, so until next time, I love you and keep on training. You're doing great.